Welcome back, On Guard Army. We are jumping right back into content at long last. I know I've been away for a little bit. It's been some time and a lot of work that has kept me away from content, but with me being picked up by TLS, we are going to be jumping right back into content again. In addition to me making this deck profile video, we are also going to be providing gameplay over on the TLS channel of me against Sunny playing Dragapult versus Terapagos Dusknoir. So if you're looking for gameplay of this deck, hop on over to the TLS channel and you'll be able to see how these decks work well against each other. But with that being said, we're going to jump right into covering Dragapult EX. This list is very similar to the one that won the Dortmund Regionals, the one by Okada, who is a very great deck builder. I think it was absolutely insane that they won the entire tournament with a Pidgeotless build, but the more that I've played this, I've realized it doesn't really need Pidgeot. They were playing 2 Rotom V and 2 Dusknoir, but seeing as most of the things that I play in are best of 1 at the moment, I have cut down to 1 Rotom V and 1 Dusknoir in favor of 2 Night Stretcher and a Lost Vacuum, mainly due to local Raging Bolt at my current meta, or my current locals, and the Night Stretcher basically being a second Dusknoir or being able to reutilize some of the other cards. So let's jump into the counts. We are starting with 4 Dreepy, the 70 HP one obviously, not the 60 HP Psychic one from a while ago. This one is just what you need, especially in a meta that has things like Dragapult and like the Dusknoirs and whatnot. Having 70 HP is always good. It's also buddy poffinable. Very, very good Dreepy card. Also, you can poke for 10 with Petty Grudge, or bite for 40 in a pinch if you need to. We've got 3 Drakloak. In replacement for like the Pidgeot engine, they've gone with a heavier Drakloak line, which lets you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand and 1 on the bottom of your deck, allowing you to filter through your deck, draw some cards, and preserve some resources for later. You're not discarding any of them, you're just putting them back on the bottom of your deck. Dragon Headbutt is also nice in a pinch. This actually allows you to hit Mimikyu. So being able to knock out Mimikyu for the middle stage of your generally evolution line is actually really great. Like, Dragon Headbutt actually comes up against those Mimikyu decks. Then we've got the Dragapult EX, which is obviously the focus of the deck. Has 320 HP, a first attack that does Jet Headbutt for 70 damage for a single colorless energy, which with the Sparkling Crystal you can just use for free, and then Phantom Dive for 200 and put 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. So you're netting a total of 260 damage for just 2 energy, or with Sparkling Crystal, just a singular energy attachment. Then we have Tatsugiri. It's a nice 1-prize engine Pokemon that lets you find your supporters a little bit easier. It has the Attract Customers ability that once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck, reveal a supporter card you find there, and put it into your hand. Then you shuffle the others back into your deck. It's reminiscent of the Jirachi that was look at top 6 and find an item and put it into your hand. Actually, I think it was top 5. I think Mew was top 6. But you get to reveal a supporter, put it into your hand, and honestly, it's great for just getting through your deck and getting those combo pieces that you need for a 1-prizer that sits in the active. It's also buddy poffinable, so if you have, like, energy in hand on turn 1 of the game going second, you could always go buddy poffin for Dreepy, Tatsugiri, attach retreat into Tatsugiri, attract customers, hit an Arven, buddy poffin, go off to the races. Like, Tatsugiri is a really good card, and with a switch card also in the deck, you can pivot into it, attract customers, potentially get those combo pieces you need, and go off running. We've got 2 of the Brilliant Stars 60 HP Duskull, which is marginally better than the other Duskull, especially in this deck, because we play Psychic Energy. The fact that we play Psychic Energy means we can actually utilize this Perplex attack, which putting 10 damage onto the board and having the potential to confuse something can potentially win you a game. It won't come up very often, but it will win you more games than the other Duskull would have in its place. Then we've got 1 Dusclops. You can knock it out and do 5 damage or place 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. and then this gets knocked out. So they take a prize, you get to put 50 damage on the board. You could technically Will-O-Wisp in a pinch, like, it's possible to do so, but you'll almost never be swinging with this. You'll just be knocking it out. Like, there's no real reason in swinging for 50 when you could just put 50 on something and then swing with something else for more. But this one's not going to be the one that we use as much as this one. The goal, very heavily, is going to be to evolve into Dusknoir and use its Curse Blast ability, which lets you place 13 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. This allows you to set up for some massive swing turns, especially with the 60 damage that you are already spreading with Dragapult. Theoretically, you could also get off a double Dusknoir play by going Candy into Dusknoir on one of your Duskulls, then knock it out, then Night Stretcher it back into your hand, Candy, Dusknoir, do it again. Like, you can theoretically take, like, 5 or 6 prize turns with this. Generally, the 4 prize turn map will generally be what you go for. You'll want to set up, like, a 4 prize scenario with this, which again can theoretically be a 6 prize turn if you set up your math correctly. But most of the time you're going to be taking a 2 prize knockout into a 4 prize knockout, trying to completely skip your opponent's ability to Briar. We also have Radiant Alakazam. This allows us for better placement of the damage counters. For example, you could pop Dusknoir and then move 2 of it to something else if it would be wasting the damage counters otherwise. For example, if you're swinging for 200 with Dragapult, you could place 13 on something that's, like, say it's a Squawk or something. Place 13, move 2 up to the active, say, has 220 health. You can move it up, swing for 200 plus the 20 that you just moved, knock out the Squawk on the bench, 4 prize turn. Easy as that. Obviously, there's way too many lines to go over in just simple terms. This is meant to be a basic explanation of how these combos are supposed to work. Then we have Lumineon V, which when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you get to search your deck for a supporter card. This is great for going off and getting your combo pieces, as well as being able to set up or just grab a boss in the late game. It's always able to grab a piece whenever you hit it, depending on what you need at the time. This can also grab you the Arven for whichever combo piece you need, plus Forest Seal Stone, and Forest Seal Stone can grab you that other piece. So this will almost always be 2 combo pieces, or it can just be the game-winning piece of Boss's Orders, or if you need to disrupt your opponent, you could always grab Roxanne at the proper time, or Iono. Crispin also, if you absolutely need to set up your Dragapult, like, immediately, and have already used your Sparkling Crystal, you could always Lumineon for Crispin to be able to set up another Dragapult. Then we have the Rotom V. This you almost always want to get down as early as possible. For example, this is the reason why they were playing 2 Rotom, is so they get into Rotom easier, so they can instant charge and draw 3 cards at the beginning of the game, whether or not they are going first or second. I have cut down to 1 only for basically best of 1 format, but 2 will always be more consistent in best of 3. So if you're playing in a best of 3 format, I would recommend playing 2 Rotom V. If anything, I think you would cut the Lost Vacuum to play a second Rotom V, but my local meta is filled with a lot of Raging Bolt, so I have decided to opt for a Lost Vacuum in its place. But it's not only used for the beginning of the game. You could also knock out something with Dusknoir, and then potentially disrupt them, and instead of swinging with something else, in case you need to go, like, attach if you're behind on attachments on a second Dragapult after they knock it out, you could always just instant charge after knocking out something else. So you could Curse Blast, knock out their attacker, and then Rotom V instant charge to try and set up for your 4 prize play on the following turn. Then there's Fezandipiti. This will always be a fantastic card. Anytime one of your Pokemon is knocked out, you can draw 3 cards during your turn. You obviously can't use this more than once in a turn, but it is great for recouping from an opponent going like Iono, knock out your active attacker. Flip the Script can draw you into those much needed combo pieces to get back into the game. Then for our supporters, we have 4 Arven, because this is the main consistency of the game. It gets you most of your combo pieces. It gets you Sparkling Crystal, Forest Seal, or Rescue Board. We have 2 Iono. This, in the early game, is really good draw that also preserves your resources. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw cards for the amount of shuffle your hand, place it on the bottom of your deck. Draw as many cards as you have prizes remaining, both you and your opponent. So in the late game, this is a disruption card. In the early game, this is a card that can preserve resources while also drawing you additional cards. Then we have Roxanne as an additional disruption card that after your opponent has taken 3 prizes, you can make them get set to 2 cards remaining in their hand, and you get set to 6. So both players shuffle their hands into deck, you draw 6, they only draw 2. This is like a pseudo-unfair stamp, and you can proc it a lot easier with your Dusclops Dusknoir line. So after they've knocked out a singular Dragapult, you can pop a Dusclops or a Dusknoir, and then Roxanne them, which is a very strong play, and I see why Okada was playing this card. Boss's Orders is just kind of a necessary one-of here. If you're in a situation where you are actually ahead in the game and can't counter a catcher, having a one-of boss is absolutely huge. Following that, we've got Crispin, which is an additional way to burst a Dragapult into play in a single turn. The Sparkling Crystal is nice because you can attach Sparkling Crystal, attach an energy, and then you're off to the races, but Crispin allows you to get an extra energy into play as well. So if you haven't used Supportive for turn, Crispin is great for being able to search out a Psychic and a Fire, attach one of them with the effect of this card, and then attach the other one for turn to have a set up Dragapult in a singular turn. Then we have 4 Buddy Buddy Poffin. This is great for getting set up. This will grab us as many Dreepies and Duskulls and the Tatsugiri if we need it. We've got 3 Ultra Ball for finding our evolution Pokemon, as well as being able to get that Lumineon into play, into hand, and then into play, so we can actually use that Luminous Sign ability. Then we've got the 3 Nest Balls for searching your deck for a basic Pokemon and putting it onto your bench. This will grab us any one of our basics, but it can also grab us the Rotom and the Fezandipiti to be able to use their instant charge and flip the script abilities. Obviously, Ultra Ball can find these as well, but the Nest Balls can still get these 2 for their full effects, rather than Lumineon needing to be played from hand. Then we have 4 Rare Candy for getting into our Dragapults and our Dusknoir. The fact that we have 4 and we're not playing Pidgeot anymore means there's a lot less pressure on the Rare Candy that there normally is in these builds, because normally you have to dedicate a candy to getting a Pidgeot established. Without Pidgeot, these Rare Candies can be used a lot more flexibly with your Dragapult and Dusknoir, and you can afford to pitch a Rare Candy or 2 in certain matchups as well, especially considering you can evolve up through your Drakloak as well. Then we've got 2 Counter Catchers, which most of the time your opponent is going to be starting the game by going up on prizes by taking the first 1 prize knockout. Counter Catcher allows you to immediately gust them following that, or if you have established a Duskull and are able to pop a Dusclops or a Dusknoir, you are able to put yourself behind on prizes to be able to Counter Catcher them. The Dusknoir line actually makes Counter Catcher a much more powerful card, because you can, by yourself, on your own turn, proc Counter Catcher. Like, being able to gust for an item card is absolutely insane, especially when it means that you can more strategically place your damage. Then we've got 2 Earthen Vessel, because missing attachments is something you don't really want to do with this deck, when you need 2 attachments on everything and most of it is manual attachments. Of course, your first one you can get set up with Sparkling Crystal plus attachment, but the more up you are on attachments, the more ahead you'll be in actually being able to continually swing throughout your game. This is why we are playing 2 Earthen Vessel and 2 Night Stretcher to be able to retrieve those energies or the Pokemon after we've used them, or they get KO'd, or we need to discard them in some way. So we've got 2 Earthen Vessel, 2 Night Stretcher, and now we've got a Switch. The Switch is also nice for getting out of the active in certain circumstances. You can also switch into Tatsugiri, attract customers, Arven for Rescue Board and the combo piece you needed, Rescue Board, retreat into your attacker, swing. Like, the Switch helps you to more easily combo with Tatsugiri, and a one-of Switch makes Tatsugiri a much more viable option. The Lost Vacuum is mainly here for the Raging Bolt matchup, but you can also use this flexibly in a lot of other ways. For example, against Lugia, you may be playing against one that is playing a Jamming Tower or something. Removing that allows you to use your Sparkling Crystal or your Forest Seal Stone again. Lost Vacuum also allows you to remove an area 0 from your opponent's field, so they have to discard down their bench. Honestly, Lost Vacuum has a lot of different uses, but the main thing, for me at least, is getting rid of Bravery Charm against Raging Bolt, which is generally a tough matchup, but if we can place enough damage with what we have, we can take those 4 prize turns in order to win games. Then we've got a Rescue Board, a great pivoting option. The ideal target for this to be on is Tatsugiri, but since most of our deck is 1 retreat cost Pokemon, we can just slap this on anything that needs to pivot out of the active. It also gives us the flexibility to, if they try and Gust Stall our Radiant Alakazam, we could theoretically go Rescue Board attachment, attach for turn, retreat. So it does make it easier to get out of the active with Radiant Alakazam if need be. Otherwise, we can just pivot with something else, and the switch also makes it easier for us to get out of the active with our Radiant Alakazam. The Forest Seal Stone can be used with Lumineon or Rotom, and can grab us any 1 card throughout the game. And our ace spec of choice is, as I was talking about earlier, Sparkling Crystal. The Terra Pokemon this card is attached to, the energy cost is 1 less. It's any energy. So it can cut off the fire cost, it can cut off the psychic cost, it will make your Phantom Dive attack cost a singular energy, which is phenomenal. Then we have a Temple of Sinnoh. This is very important against Lugia, because Legacy Energy really messes up the prize map, and Mist Energy really makes it difficult to spread your damage in a way that's relevant. Being able to Temple of Sinnoh at an ideal time allows you to much more easily navigate the Lugia matchup. I think that Temple of Sinnoh is a great stadium choice here because it is not necessarily a defensive stadium, but an offensive stadium. It allows you to press your turn further. That's why I think this is a better option over something like Pokemon League Headquarters, because Pokemon League Headquarters is a defensive stadium that they can bump on their turn. They will have no response to a Temple of Sinnoh on your turn if you utilize it properly on the turn it's played. Following that, we have the 3 basic fires and the 3 psychics. And that rounds out the list. I think this list is insane, and I think Dragapult is in a very good position in this format, and I cannot wait to play this against Sunny, which you'll be able to see on the TLS channel. Link in the description to that video, you'll be able to check out and see how I fare against him. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I will catch y'all later.